show, guys. Happy New Year yet again, January 2nd. I'm going to keep rolling out this content here for you. Got an exciting one here. And the reason I'm doing this episode today is I got a lot of questions from yesterday in regards to fading CMC first overall. And I said, do not draft. I gave you reasons why to not draft. So go back and watch that. I want to talk today about who would be the first overall pick for fantasy football 2022. Now, it's very early, but I'm going to break it down for you. I'm going to tell you who I think as of right now. Now, this is going to significantly change a lot of my decisions when I make 16-round draft solution, when I base my decisions, I don't really focus on too much on rankings, but more so on where players are picked up. But when I do my rankings and I take a look at where I'm picking up players for a draft, it happens after the NFL draft. So I know more in around May, okay? Late April, whenever the draft happens, that's when I make my final decisions on who I pick. But in this video, I want to talk about who I would pick first overall if it were sitting the way that it is right now. Now, before I get into this video, guys, make sure you guys do smash that thumbs up. And very important, I want to make this ultra interactive in 2024. Lion mentality. We are really implementing the Lion mentality. We are integrating it into our DNAs this year. So lion up and drop a comment below. Let me know who you would pick as of right now. Okay, I'm not talking about September. I'm not talking about, July. I'm talking about right now. We're talking January because fantasy football doesn't end. And some people get discouraged because they love fantasy football. They're like, oh, fantasy football is over. Championship's over. I won my championship, whatever it is. And they get upset. I'm like, dude, we go year round. So make sure you guys subscribe, thumbs up, turn on the bell. I'm ramping it up. While everybody's winding down and turning it off, I'm ramping it up. So subscribe, thumbs up, and drop a comment below. Let me know in your thoughts, maybe after you hear this analysis, okay? So I'm going to pull up real quickly here, guys, a screen share. I don't know if you guys could see it, but take a look here. These are all of the running backs. Now, automatically I jump to running backs because I probably won't. We'll take a look at receivers too, but when I look at running backs, I'm still probably going to go robust RB. It's still a little early. I don't know if I'm going to change my strategy too much, but the running back is the most scarce position. We saw how players get hurt so quickly, like guys like Nick Chubb, J.K. Dobbins, who I told you to avoid, and it's such a scarce position. So let's pull up the running backs here. As of week 17, heading into NFL week 18, we see that Christian McCaffrey's on top now. Apparently, he's going to be missing week 18, already showing signs of injury. Go back and watch the video I just did on why I'm going to be fading Christian McCaffrey. Gave you 5 reasons on why. And he's out for week 18, so already showing signs of injury. So possible candidates as first overall. Now, people are going to be talking a lot about, Rachaad White, who, again, as of week 17, is a top 6 running back who's been very consistent. I think he's fool's gold. Well, again, we got to deep dive a little bit more into, the offseason, a little bit more of the NFL draft. I'm not sold. Even guys like Kyren Williams, right, who are going to be ranked very high. Raheem Mostert. There's no way he supersedes these numbers that he had this year. So again, there's so much analysis that needs to be done here. Jahmyr Gibbs, I like, right? So there's so many candidates. Breece Hall. We're talking first overall pick, all right? When I quickly glance here, I'm going to filter here by wide receiver. I'm going to just take these stars are for my own information here. You take a look at these wide receivers. CeeDee Lamb coming off a pinnacle year. Tyreek Hill and Monra. Keenan Allen, who, again, missed the playoffs. I told you, this guy's going to get hurt. Him and Mike Williams. I called an injury for both of them. I mean, look at Keenan Allen. Missed like the last 3 weeks of your fantasy football season. He was a 3rd-round pick. So even with wide receiver, it ain't sunshines and rainbows, right? When you're looking at first overall pick, guys that were drafted high, Jamar Chase, Devontae Adams, 10 and 11 here, sitting in 10 and 11 in fantasy points here. Guys that were drafted with high draft capital, Calvin Ridley, another guy, DeAndre Hopkins, pretty high draft capital, right? There's a ton of guys. Cooper Kupp kind of crap the bed here, There's a ton of guys. T. Higgins was a 3rd-round pick, everybody. I mean, T. Higgins was a 3rd-round pick. Okay, again, I'm not sitting here to analyze all this, but you got to take a look at all this stuff that, like, we're talking first overall pick. It's got to be the right pick. Now, quarterback, you can wait. There's going to be a ton of depth. Wide receiver, again, we saw volatility at that position. So we're seeing volatility at the wide receiver position, but we're also seeing scarcity at the running back position. So I still think, in my opinion, again, this is early, that the running back position is still the position we want when we are discussing the first overall pick. So with that data, looking at, wide receivers busting, and now a lot of wide receivers are three-headed monsters anyway. You don't know who the wide receiver one is on a lot of these teams. So it's a disaster there as well. So again, I'm looking at this now, and I'm looking at the running back position because it is the most scarce position. Now, everybody's going to default and say it's got to be Christian McCaffrey coming off a 391-point season 17 weeks in. That's where it's going to end because he's not playing week 18. Travis Etienne having a good week. We got to see what they do with that offense. Raheem Mostert, he tends to be injured a lot throughout his career, finishing as top 3 again, 17 weeks in. Breece Hall, tons of upside. Be interesting to see what happens with that offense. Is Aaron Rodgers come back? What happens, right? Who's going to be the quarterback? But definitely, I would say, barring any injury, Breece Hall takes a big boost. I would say, as of right now, Breece Hall could be a first overall pick. But hold on a second. Kyren Williams, I don't really trust this offense doing well again next year. We're going to have to see what they do. Rachaad White, I still think he's full gold. Joe Mixon, definitely not sitting at 7 right now, 17 weeks in. Jahmyr Gibbs, Kamara, I think Kamara's on a decline. Derrick Henry, top 10 running back. Again, this was the last year for Derrick Henry, in my opinion. I thought that this was the end of the line. It was kind of a boomer bust year for him, and he kind of leaned a little bit more on the boomy side, but still wasn't amazing like he typically is, averaging 3.9 yards per carry. So the decline is definitely being integrated as he gets older. We're seeing that. James Cook, Bijan Robinson. So there's a ton of options here, okay? So again, we're looking at running back, and we got to make a decision on who the first overall pick is. Again, very early because the season isn't even done yet. God forbid some of these guys get hurt in the playoffs. We don't know. But I got to make a decision. And again, I want you guys to weigh in below and let me know, who do you guys like as a first overall pick? Are you guys set on running back? Because again, I am. Let's take a quick glance again, looking at the wide receiver. When you look at wide receiver here, let me pull that up here. A lot of these guys, Tyreek could be viable, but how many years does he have left at the top, right? CeeDee Lamb, I think that was a bit of a pinnacle year. A.J. Brown's good. Jalen Hurts, he's been decent, solid, right? Mike Evans, he had like kind of I think almost like a last hurrah. He's been solid. I wouldn't pay, that much for Mike Evans again, right? So again, it's up to you guys to make a decision. I say wide receiver, running back. Again, I'm still on the whole, running back kick. I still think that that's the most scarce position. So I got to make a decision. So my candidates are this. I think Etienne is good. I don't think he's outstanding, right? I think he's good. Decent offense, got some opportunity, averaging 3.8 yards per carry on the ground. And again, where's Austin Eckler? Where's Tony Pollard? These are the guys that the Chiefs would love. They love Josh Jacobs. Now, all of a sudden, where is Austin Eckler? He finished, 35th or something? Where did he finish, Austin Eckler? He's way down here somewhere. Austin Eckler, 25th amongst running backs. What a huge bust he was. 3.7 yards per carry, 617 yards. Just crap the bed, right? Tony Pollard, right? Finished, he busted 14th. So a lot of the guys that Chiefs has liked busted, okay? Just to let you know. So my candidates personally, because I try to project forward. That's all we do. I don't sit back and be like, hey man, let's look at what happened last year. We're gonna base our rankings based on last year. I don't do that. I look at where the puck's gonna be, not where the puck currently is. So looking at my first overall pick, as of right now, January, I narrowed it down to 2 candidates. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is a viable option. I love him. I think the talent is great. And when you look at his numbers, man, 915 yards on the ground. Okay. If you look at David Montgomery, stole a lot of that volume, right? 169 guys, 169 attempts compared to David Montgomery, who had 209. 209 attempts were wasted, guys, on David Montgomery. Okay. That is a waste. And that is not what I like to see. I want to see that volume go to Jahmyr Gibbs. So that's my issue. If David Montgomery goes away, right? If David Montgomery goes away, that 209 attempts, even if we get 100 more to Jahmyr Gibbs, that's amazing. We got, 9 touchdowns for Gibbs on the ground. David Montgomery, 12, right? So I don't like to see this volume go to David Montgomery. It's a huge waste. Jahmyr Gibbs finished 8th with the pest that is David Montgomery there. So assuming, guys, that, Montgomery's supposed to still be there. That's the thing. We're going to have to see. I would still think that the Lions would still integrate Jahmyr Gibbs more this upcoming year, going into his second year. And when Montgomery was out, Jahmyr Gibbs' flu absolutely took off, right? So the Montgomery thorn is in my way. It's bothering me just from hindering me from, taking him first overall, but I'm still I'm debating it, okay? Another option here is Breece Hall. Love Breece Hall. Dalvin Cook was, everyone told you draft him in the 5th round. I'm like, no, don't draft Dalvin Cook. He's a waste. He sucks. He's trash. He's garbage. He's washed up. No business being on the Jets. And now you even saw with Cook there, he had a decent year, 261.5 fantasy points. Is this something to write home about? He's a top 4 running back. The running back, 186 attempts. Imagine you got 250. The running back position was crazy this year. He still finished as top 4, sitting at top 4 PPR again, 17 weeks in. This 17 weeks tally. Getting it done in the receiving game, 74 receptions, right? 4 touchdowns receiving. He's going to get way more goal line work. So I see a ceiling here, like a Mostert, a McCaffrey. You got Breece Hall, who's still young, still up and coming. The offense can only get better from this past year. More integration. The sky's the limit for Breece Hall. So to me, when I look at this, Kyren Williams could be good. He's just not one of those outstanding top-tier running backs that caliber that a Breece Hall or Jahmyr Gibbs is. Neither is Rachaad White. These guys weren't first-round picks. So, again, in reality, so I would lean here, again, correct me if I'm wrong, based on upside, based on ceiling, that Breece Hall and Jahmyr Gibbs, it would be between them. Based on the fact that Montgomery's there, it's going to annoy me. I'm not going to lie. So I've got to hear something in the news or reports or in training camp that Gibbs is going to be the one and, Montgomery's just there for goal line work. But based on volume, based on talent, I would go Gibbs. But based on opportunity and based on volume, opportunity, Breece Hall. Based on talent, explosiveness, you got to consider Gibbs. So as of right now, because I still think the Montgomery factor is going to be annoying, I'm going to go ahead and make my decision with Breece Hall as the first overall pick for Fantasy Football 2024. Again, this is very early. Very, very early. But Gibbs is right there, and I'm going to change my mind probably in a couple days. That Montgomery thorn is too much for me. Now, mind you, I hope Gibbs, I don't think he will, falls to the end of the first round. Then I could stack him with someone else, right, as on that turn if I'm drafting later. If I'm drafting first, Gibbs probably won't be coming back on the 24th pick in a 12-person league. So something to consider. If you want Gibbs, you're just going to have to spend money on him. But you got to deal with that Montgomery factor, which we're going to see how that fizzles out, guys, as we head off into the offseason to head towards the 2024 NFL season. So, again, very early here. So that's it. Breece Hall is my pick. But I'm thinking Gibbs. We're going to have to see what happens with Kyren Williams, all these other guys. But I think there's a lot of fool's gold in that first round. In those top 10 running backs like Raheem Mostert, Rachaad White. I don't know if they're going to duplicate those numbers. I think CMC gets hurt coming off this, second pinnacle year of his career. 2 years where he's absolutely crushed it. He's turning 28. Go back and watch that video. But guys, I'm going to be rolling out content here for you guys daily. So make sure you guys are subscribed. Fantasy football doesn't end. Don't be upset. We're just getting rolling right now. So subscribe, thumbs up, drop a comment below. Do you agree? Do you see the highest ceiling with Breece Hall? Do you see what I'm seeing? Again, like I said, that offense wasn't good, and there's still did really well. So there's more ceiling to be had. Does that make sense? Whereas, even Gibbs, more ceiling to be had. 200 plus attempts went to Montgomery. I think more shifts towards Jahmyr Gibbs. So I'm leaning those two guys with a slight edge to Breece at the time of this recording. Let me know what you guys think. Is there anyone else you'd consider first overall? Are you going wide receiver? Are you going tight end? And that sucks too. Hawkinson's tight end is going to be inflated. I got him for a deal. If you got 16 rounds last year, my draft solution, you got Hawkinson for a great deal. Now the sheep are going to be riding him. So are you going tight end, wide receiver, running back, quarterback? Now in a 2-quarterback league, you might have to go quarterback first. But let me know in the comments below. We're talking 1-quarterback league. Breece Hall. Let me know your thoughts. Appreciate you guys. Subscribe, thumbs up, turn on that bell. I'm out.